Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Federico Talks Watches. Today, I'm once again answering some of your questions like, what do I think is better, Patek Philippe or A. Lange & Söhne? And what are the downsides to having a beautiful stone dial? All that and way more in today's episode. Now, of course, before we get started, customary wristwatch check. Today, I'm wearing my Breguet Marine Big Date, the previous generation, one of my favorite watches in my collection, and it's back on the wrist today. Also, guys, do not forget to check out DelReyWatch.com. Some extremely cool watches have hit the website lately, and the first one might be one of the rarest, if not the coolest, watch I've ever had in stock. And that is an H. Moser Streamliner Tourbillon with the rainbow sapphire bezel. Yes, I get it. This watch is not for everybody, but boy, what a beauty it is. What a statement it is. And it is absolutely sold out everywhere. There's one for sale used online, and ours is unworn and $20,000 less than that. Box, papers, unworn, an absolutely killer statement piece. We also got in the Vacheron Constantin Overseas Big Date in the white dial. This is the previous generation, the more handsome generation, and for a killer price as well. And if you guys love Breguet Marines, we also just got in the same watch as this one on an aftermarket strap. Absolutely lovely for the cheapest price in the world. All that and way more at DelReyWatch.com. The best place for a watch geek to buy a watch. Link in the description below. Anyway, guys, you know the spiel. These are the questions you ask me on my Instagram account at Federico Talks Watches. A few times a month, the Q&A picture pops up. When you see that picture, feel free to ask your questions. When I get enough questions, I take the picture down. Please do not DM me. I do not check them. And we start with Watch Lounge Chris. And he says, thoughts on Zodiac? Well, it depends. Are we talking modern or vintage Zodiac? Vintage Zodiac, I think, is one of the coolest, undervalued, but quickly becoming appreciated vintage watch brands. Fantastic divers with bakelite bezels. They even made GMT versions. Absolutely lovely. Modern Zodiac is owned by the Fossil Group, which sounds awful, but, it's not. They are Swiss-made watches, and they make remakes of their vintage watches, which is a good thing because their vintage watches are beautiful. Yes, these are not quite as special, but if pre-owned under $1,000, a modern Zodiac is a very handsome dive watch. I give it 2 thumbs up. Watch on the side says, what is your thought on A. Lange & Söhne compared to Patek? Which do you think have the better collection? So this is interesting, because if we're talking history, prestige, status, it has to go to Patek Philippe. I mean, they are considered top of the top for good reason. Fantastic watches, even with their snafu, and I still think Thierry Stern has to shove both feet out of his mouth after the Cubitus release. Patek is fantastic, but if we're talking product, we're not talking status, we're not talking history, because A. Lange & Söhne is now owned by Richemont, no longer independent, even though Richemont lets them do pretty much whatever they want, and it's a brand without a continuous history. But we're talking product, and A. Lange & Söhne is fantastic. Not only better value for money, but I think better watches, maybe not in every category, but for the most part. The finishing is better, the prices are less expensive, they make less watches than Patek Philippe. And while I do think Patek watches tend to be more handsome, I like their classic design versus the Lange's Germanic design, quality-wise, I have to give it to Lange. RBJ65. Hey Fed, how do you like Cuervo y Sobrinos watches? So this is kind of interesting, kind of like modern Zodiac. I really like their designs. They're very bold, neo-vintage inspired. Sometimes they have a Latin flair or bright colors. Very, very cool watches. Horologically speaking, nothing special. A lot of Sellita, Valjoux, Etta movements. but they look fantastic. And if you pick one up pre-owned for, $1,000, $1,500, $2,000, it could be a fun little watch that doesn't break the bank. Quality is good. Design is excellent, in my opinion. Just, nothing particularly special horologically speaking. Then last but not least, R. Marandino. Hey Fed, what are the upsides and the downsides of a stone dial watch? Well, the upside is simple. Beauty and exclusivity. Stone dials are rare for the most part. They're getting more common nowadays. They're very beautiful to look at. No two are the same because the pattern on the stone is never the same, so you have a unique dial. Those are all things I love. The downside is they can be fragile. Now, I'm not trying to scare you. They're not like super fragile, but stone dials can crack. If the watch takes a big shock, the dial can crack. During service, if you've given it to a watchmaker that doesn't know what he's doing, when they remove the dial from the movement, it can crack. And it can be expensive to replace. As I said, they're not overly fragile, but the downside is, have I said it enough? They can crack. So that's why you don't see a lot of like stone dial divers watches or sports watches. But I've owned a few stone dial watches, never really had an issue, but I have seen what can happen. Anyway, guys, that's it for today. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Really does help. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any more content. And of course, I will catch you in the next one. Take care.